So you have two waters to choose from.
Oh, really?
You have your right-hand water and your
Okay,
left-hand
great,
water.
fantastic.
Your right-wing water and your left-wing water.
No, she gets both of the waters. We get these waters.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. How's your lunch? Delicious? Great. Can we have your attention a little bit? I know so many important conversations are going on around this table and in this room. I hope you're enjoying your lunch and that you're meeting the folks that you're sitting with and having good conversations. My name is Margareta Strand-Rangnes. I'm the Deputy Director of the Blue-Green Alliance. And we're going to have a panel up here now focused on the theme around movement building. Before, though, I introduce our moderator for the panel, I wanted just to take a quick moment to reflect on this amazing group of people that are in this room. This year at this conference, we have 795 organizations participating. And we have people in this room from 48 out of the 50 states. We have a person from Hawaii, a person from Alaska. Thank you for making the trip here. I know we have somebody from Montana. We have 132 people that came from New York, 31 made it from Texas, 65 from Virginia, and 22 from Tennessee, and we have 21 from New Mexico. So truly the country is in this room right now. And I still hear stories of people who went to the first Green Jobs Conference in Pittsburgh in 2008. Any of you that were here back then? People still tell me, you know, I met so-and-so at the conference, and we stayed in touch. And since then, we have been doing all this work together, and we continue to collaborate. And I think that's why we are convening this conference, because in and of itself, a conference is not important. It's the connections that are made and the networks that are created that makes this work worthwhile as we all go back to our communities and continue this work. So I hope that this conference and I hope that this upcoming panel will inspire you and will enable you to forge new alliances and new partnerships and to find new ways to mobilize in your community. The moderator of our panel is a face and a voice that's well known to Americans. Bill Press is the host of the nationally syndicated radio show, The Bill Press Show. Bill has received numerous awards for his work, including 4 Emmys, a Golden Mike Award, and he was named Best Commentator of the Year by the Associated Press. So everybody, please help me welcome to discuss the future of the Blue-Green Movement, Bill Press. Thank you.
Thanks, Margareta. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see ya. Yeah. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bill Press. I am a 30-year union member and a 30-year Sierra Club member. I'm proud to be here today. So that makes me a son of John L. Lewis and a son of John Muir at the same time. And honored to join you as a moderator for today's panel, Building a Movement, How Union Members and Environmentalists Can Work Together for a Better Future. I'm particularly excited to be here for me today because this takes me back to my roots. Margareta did not mention that long before Crossfire, long before Spin This, long before CNN or MSNBC or a national radio show, I started out as an environmental lobbyist in Sacramento as the first executive director of the Planning and Conservation League, or PCL, working with the Sierra Club closely and working with the League of Conservation Voters. In my capacity as executive director, we sponsored what then was the very first meeting of environmentalists to discuss issues around the environment in big cities. We had the panel in San Francisco, the meeting in San Francisco. We called it the first environmental conference to deal with problems below the 10,000-foot level, of course, where the Sierra Club started. And I'll never forget that our keynote speaker at the time was Willie Brown, then Speaker of the California Assembly. And we were in San Francisco, and Willie welcomed us to this beautiful city and looking out on this beautiful San Francisco Bay, which we had all worked so hard to save. And then Willie said, but I all want you to know that we would pave over San Francisco Bay if it created jobs for our people. And I thought, Jesus, where do we go from here? We've got some bridge building to do. And we have. I never thought it had to be that way. It didn't have to be that way, but for too long it was. Too long we were on opposite sides of the issues. As environmentalists, we wanted to save the coastline, and the building trades wanted to build condos there. We wanted to stop construction of nuclear plants, and the iron workers and others wanted to build them. We wanted to save the magnificent redwoods, and the loggers wanted to cut them down for jobs, to get jobs for them and to take care of their families. Until we all woke up one day and realized that what was happening while we were battling each other is we were both being screwed by the same corporate interests. So we decided we ought to get smarter and think of ways that we might be able to actually work together and survive together and build a better America together. One of the first things we did, we had an initiative on the ballot back in 1980 in California, which was called Tax Big Oil, to tax the excess profits of the oil companies in order to build high-speed rail and public transit in California. And it was sponsored by the environmental organizations and the labor unions together in support of that initiative. So we started some efforts, but things went slowly until about 5 years ago. Carl Pope of the Sierra Club, who couldn't be with us today, and Leo Gerard of the Steelworkers got together and formed the Blue-Green Alliance. Leo Gerard's in the front row right here. Stand up, Leo. Come on. And look where we are today, 1,600 strong in this ballroom. We've come a long way, baby, and I'm happy to be here. So today, we're going to talk about how we move beyond here even and build a national movement. We've got a great panel to do that for you. Let me introduce the panel members, and I will start by position here, not politics, on my extreme right. Francis Beinecke is one of the top environmentalists in this country today, and head of one of the oldest and one of the most successful environmental organizations I also used to work with back in California, the Natural Resources Defense Council. Francis has been with the NRDC for 30 years, was its executive director for 8 years, during which time she doubled its membership, built the staff up to 300, and she's been president of NRDC since 2006, leading NRDC in campaigns to, of course, curb global warming, save the world's oceans, move America beyond oil, save endangered wild places around the globe, protect us from toxic chemicals, accelerate the greening of China, and of course, help create good, green, quality jobs here in America. Francis, welcome. Mary Kay Henry is one of America's newest and already recognized most energetic and innovative labor leaders in this country, the new international president of the SEIU, coming to SEIU and bringing 30 years experience working in the field of universal health care. She's been working on healthcare issues and helping healthcare workers form unions in order to improve delivery of care and protect their own jobs. At the same time, leading efforts today to form new labor management relationships with hospital owners and employers, which includes workers and executives alike working together to provide better care in a healthier and greener hospital workplace. Mary Kay, welcome. And in my job and in my work, I've gotten to know, and I'm proud of it, every president of every labor union in this country, and every one of them has told me that they look up to Larry Cohen, the president of the CWA, as their role model when it comes to organizing and building workplace democracy and fighting for middle-class Americans. Larry's been president of CWA since 2005, representing over 700,000 members in many, many different fields. Of course, we expect CWA to be the leader in the telecommunications field, also active in the field of cable TV, journalism, their members are, broadcasting, education, even flight attendants. Larry's been active on the international front as well, working with CWA counterparts in Latin America, Europe, and Asia, and here in the United States, a leader in the effort to build out high-speed broadband to every community in the nation as a key to spurring economic growth and creating good, new, quality union green jobs. Larry, welcome to you too. All right. You see, Francis and Mary Kay, the smart one brings his own cheering section. That's the way they work this here. So, all right, I'm going to throw one question first to the panel and get you each to comment on it. Maybe I've been in Washington too long, but I'm sort of a skeptic, right, and a non-believer. So when I hear the word green jobs right away, I get, what's that really mean? Because I remember it wasn't so long ago, everybody was talking about ecotourism. And there were lots of sins, like big polluting cruise ships that called themselves ecotourism just because they dropped people off at a beach somewhere, So I want to know, how real are green jobs? How real is it? Or is this just a lot of people chasing the latest fashion and the latest federal dollar? Larry, start with you.
Okay, great question. So we have here from our own union, right up front here, folks from the industrial division of our union that have been working really hard to convert their jobs, working with management, sometimes pushing management, as we like to do, to convert to sustainable economy. That's really the key. I mean, the color green is great, but what we're really talking about is jobs that will be here not only for us, but for the next generation, and jobs that also help sustain the environment. So we're looking for secure jobs and sustainable jobs. As you mentioned, in addition to manufacturing, in our own union, we're very focused on high-speed broadband as a sort of engine for green jobs for rural America as well as urban America. Currently, folks in rural America face a crisis in terms of water and energy, but they also face a crisis in terms of the engine of the new global economy, which is high-speed internet. They're basically shut down, turned off. There is virtually no high-speed internet in rural America. So just as we read about towns in Montana shutting down because there's no water, because of the climate change that we're not working on, similarly, there's towns that are shutting down because there's no infrastructure, including high-speed internet. So I think we would define green jobs as sustainable jobs, as jobs that allow us not just to consume, but to produce, so that we have a balanced economy and one that we can all be proud of. And lastly, green jobs for all of us here mean jobs where workers have rights. We're living in a time when corporate America is literally shutting down our rights, and we've had enough of it. And we want jobs, thank you, we want jobs with justice, not just any old job. So green jobs for us here, both environmentalists and unionists that are here from the beginning of this coalition, meant support for the Employee Free Choice Act, meant support for workers' rights, not just getting a job because, it was good for corporate America.
All right, okay. And let me just follow up. So are these existing jobs that we're doing in a better way, or are these new jobs we're creating and finding and providing? Or both?
Well, yeah, it's definitely both. Did you want me to answer?
Yeah,
I'll answer briefly, and then I'm sure my colleagues. It's definitely both. So again, you could go around the room here and you would hear different stories, not just from our union, but from steelworkers, every union that's here, about efforts to work with government to bring new jobs in that are sustainable, green jobs that are going to deal with the energy crisis, but also that are going to deal with producing what we need for the 21st century in this global economy.
Francis, green jobs, real? We're talking something real?
They're real jobs. Right now, the Empire State Building is replacing every window with the new energy-efficient window. The workers who are replacing those windows, who are manufacturing those windows, those are today's green jobs. The workers in Michigan who are manufacturing new hybrid vehicles, new electric vehicles, those are green jobs because they're moving us to a clean energy future. The steel workers are putting 250 tons of steel in a new wind turbine. That's a clean energy job. There are clean energy jobs all across America that are existing jobs that are moving us down a cleaner, more sustainable pathway, as Larry said. And there are new jobs getting created too, because we need new innovative technologies, the kind of innovation that President Obama spoke about in the State of the Union. There are new jobs that need to be created with the kind of vision that he has, new battery manufacturing plants. So there are all kinds of jobs being created around the country that are new technologies, that are using advanced kinds of existing technologies that are green and clean energy jobs. And that's what we're talking about. It's not some new crazy, what is that green out there? It's jobs that put people to work every day.
And as far as an environmentalist, you see these new jobs too as jobs with benefits, union jobs?
Absolutely. A lot of them, I don't know if they all are, a tremendous number are. That's why we're part of Blue-Green, working with the 10 unions that are part of Blue-Green, because these are the jobs that they need to move to create a new energy efficient, strong America. There are new transportation jobs, new car jobs, new jobs in the grid, in turbine manufacturing, in solar panels. All of these jobs are what we need in this country, and we need them here because we need the energy here.
Thank you. Mary Kay, same question, but also I'm curious, I mean, I can see for the building trades, for example, or even the construction workers, more easily than I can see SEIU green jobs. So are they real? And if so, how are your jobs green?
Well, thanks to the Blue-Green Alliance, the healthcare industry is getting awakened in thinking about the waste it generates and what our frontline environmental service workers can do to green hospitals as the first beginning of this. And we have two incredible environmental service workers here from NYU Hospital. They represent thousands that are being trained. Thanks to the Blue-Green Alliance that helped us make this linkage. And then we need to take it, I think, as Francis said, and join hands across the labor movement with all working people in the environmental movement to make this green energy economy get America back to work. There is no reason that 30 million people should not be able to find work in this country when there's all these incredibly great ideas about how we can fuse sustainable work, as Larry was saying, with creating a clean energy economy.
But how can you do that in the context of the Obama's job-killing health care legislation?
We can do it by pushing back on this incredible attack that is a total lie about the health care for all people in this country. And the wonderful thing about Leo and Carl's original vision, in my mind, is that this set of relationships creates a foundation for us doing real movement building and challenging the corporate interests that you talked about, that our country is generating a lot of wealth. We just need to get it shared so that the 80% of the people that are producing the wealth can benefit from the wealth.
Okay, I took a little whack at and there are a lot of members of the corporate world here today, sponsors of the Blue-Green Alliance and of this conference, which we appreciate. I sort of took a whack. You did. You have. So let's talk about that. Is there somebody missing from this panel? Is somebody missing from this movement that should be right at the table, namely the people that Barack Obama talked to, President Obama talked to yesterday at the chamber? Larry?
Yeah, we would say, and actually in the session that we did earlier this week with the CWA political activists who lead our movement across the country, sadly, on almost every question that we asked, you know, why don't we have the kind of health care? I mean, this was a nice start that we should have had, you know, real universal health care for all Americans. What's the answer? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce blocked it. Why don't we have the Employee Free Choice Act? It was blocked by
U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
And we can go right down the line. Why are we missing 20 million jobs in the United States?
U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Who's sending our jobs to every other country in the world? So I don't think they're missing here at all. I think they're missing the point, and I think the
If only Barack Obama had delivered that fruitcake. You know, God, things are going to. So, I hear your point. I agree with your point. But seriously, you have to have at some point, right, the business interest to maybe control the purse strings involved, and if they're meaning new jobs, new products, new markets, there's something there for them too. No, Francis?
Well, I think think that there are a lot of companies, particularly young, innovative companies in the clean tech field that are creating jobs. They're not nearly as powerful as the old fossil fuel burning, oil industry polluting companies that we're trying to shift from the 19th century to the 21st century. I think one thing that is absolutely critical is to get those voices to be more powerful, to partner up in the vision of what green, clean jobs are. And you know, there's just a very different equation of where the power is now. The power has to move. The power has to move to the people in this room, to the companies that are developing new innovative technologies and products and creating the jobs. They need to be a force out there as well. And I think that will come, but it's something I think that the Blue-Green Alliance can really push.
Mm-hmm. Mary Kay, in the president's stimulus package originally, because we've taken some steps at any rate, I think it was $92 billion, $92 billion, 11% of the stimulus was for, particularly in the energy field, development, creating of new jobs. What do we get for that? Do we know yet? Is it working?
Well, we've gotten to be able to green buildings and work with supervisors in superintendents in New York City in terms of thinking about how to clean, green, redo the kind of chemicals we're using, think about recycling and waste initiatives in buildings. But I think, so it's...
if I can, you're talking about the building itself and about the products that are being used in the building,
right,
inside the building,
right,
correct?
Right. So that money helped create the fusion that, again, I would say because of the Blue-Green Alliance, we were able to think about what the workforce does, the people they serve, and how to retool things. But I think what we have yet to realize is the original vision that was in that Recovery Act about opening up new sectors of cleaning of the green economy that Francis outlined. And that's the thing that I think we really have to figure out how to partner with corporations and business interests that we do have common interests with, many of whom are represented in this room. But the interests in this room, I think, aren't part of what Larry
right.
was shouting out about in terms
Sure.
of the sort of organized interest that is keeping us from being able to make progress in this country and really sharing the growth that's being generated in this economy.
Okay, Larry, can you look at you call it the Recovery Act, which is really its real name, or the stimulus, and see and point out real results?
Yeah, I think there was a beginning there, but what happened to economic stimulus, economic recovery, is also what happened to health care. It's what happened to the Employee Free Choice Act. It's what happened to climate change, which is great legislation passed by what we would call the best speaker ever, Nancy Pelosi, in the House of Representatives. 420 pieces of legislation passed by the House, never got debated for 1 single second in the Senate. And so many of us here were part and are part of a coalition to change the Senate rules. They changed about 1 inch. So if the goal was to get it back there where, you know, where the touchdown is, the goalposts, the goal line, we got it here. So in the last few weeks. We have the worst rules in the U.S. Senate of any democracy, any democratic body in the world. That's not an exaggeration. The U.S. Senate resembles the Senate of ancient Rome of Cicero, where 1 senator could block legislation. So when we talk about economic recovery and why didn't it go further, in addition to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Senate and the way they conduct themselves is right there. Blocked every piece of legislation. Even though we had majorities for climate change. We had majorities for workers' rights legislation that would have brought us in the mainstream of the global economy. You know, countries like Brazil and Argentina, where workers are rising up and organizing. And here, when workers rise up and organize, they get met with the worst assault, you know, from the bosses they work for that you would see in any democracy in the world. And unfortunately, the second answer, Chamber of Commerce is spending the money to buy that Senate. But the second answer is a Senate that has rules that make democratic debate impossible, and what everybody in this room stands for never got debated at all. So this room and all of us are committed to continuing on that fight and saying to the American people, 1, we need democratic rules in the Senate, and 2, we need to get the corporate money out of politics. $2 billion they spent in the November election. We won't get, right? We won't get economic recovery for working class families unless we bring democracy back and unless all of us in this room go deeper And that's what we're committed to, deeper, getting the people we work with, not just on one issue, to see how the economic justice issues are linked together.
And unless we reverse Citizens United as well,
Yeah,
or wipe it out
campaign
altogether.
finance reform, yes.
So I just have to say, as an aside, I don't know whether you noticed, at the prayer breakfast, one of the miners from Chile was there and spoke through a translator and mentioned that one of the ways they held together was that they banded together and they agreed on any decisions. They would meet as a group and they would vote. And it took 50 plus 1 to get anything done. They had more democracy in that mine in Chile than they have in the U.S. Senate.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
That's right.
Struck me. You've mentioned climate change a couple of times. So, Francis, let me go back to you. Here we have last year, and I thought it was remarkable last year, and I congratulate everybody in this room, that the environmentalists were supporting the Employee Free Choice Act, and, which is so important. And environmentalists and unions together supporting climate change legislation.
Yep.
Neither one got a vote. Now, and I think it's pretty safe to say, isn't it, that neither one's going to get a vote this time around either. So where do we go from here?
I think where we go from here is we have to go back to the states where we can really see progress in particular instances. So I just want to use states. I want to use the example. You started with California, Prop 23 in California, the largest climate vote we've had in the country. The unions, 20 unions in California got together with NRDC and the Sierra Club. We defeated Prop 23. 6 million people voted against it, and it won by 22%. It's the largest single vote we've ever had in this country on climate change, and it was an overwhelming victory. That shows you where the American public is on this. It's not where the Congress is. We have to bring the Congress along by going into the states, building a movement in districts to come back and show them where the American people is, and that the fact is solving climate change is creating a clean energy future. We see the two going together. It's practical, it's doable, and it's good for America. And that's the story we have to tell. We have a great example. We worked hard on it. We're going to have to just do that very specifically, state by state, until we have the force to move it in the Senate, because we did get overwhelming support in the, or not overwhelming, we won in the House. Yeah. Right. But now we've got to go back to the House, back to the Senate, and we've got to build it from the ground up across the country.
Prop 23 also proved that you can beat the Koch brothers.
We did beat the Koch brothers.
Yes, you did. That's what I mean.
We beat two big, Texas oil companies who were trying to pollute our citizens, create huge public health problems so that they could have increased corporate profits. That was the message. Is it profits over health? And the public wants health, and that's what we're going for. We're going to partner with you.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mary Kay, on that point, President Obama, as candidate Obama, and then in his first address to Congress, when he received the Nobel Prize, he emphasized the importance of climate change as man-made crisis facing us that we have to deal with. In the recent State of the Union, climate change, not mentioned. Global warming, not mentioned. So on the part of the administration, is there a cooling on warming?
Well, I just
and
think,
so do you stick to the same issue, or do you just decide it's not going to happen and move on?
No, I think it's what Francis said, which is that we have to be the change that we seek in the way that the president said when he was elected in 2008, and we have to rebuild a movement that shows that we can make Prop 23 times 49 happen all across this country. And I think this room and all the people we are connected to and other parts of the social and economic justice movement are completely capable of turning this around so that in 2013, when he does the State of the Union, climate change and global warming have to be part of it because the demand is overwhelming for it, and we aren't going to stop until we can get people back to work in a clean energy economy. And that we can do as a movement in building it from the states up.
What are the what are the immediate goals for this year, Larry, as you see it, for this group, this year, this Congress? Is it at the state level, ignore the Congress because Boehner's in charge, or what?
I don't think it's so much to ignore the Congress as to, go back to, as Mary Kay just said, deep movement building. Building the coalition not only in this room, but with the natural partners we have around economic justice issues, so we're even broader, but also, making it clear that, what do we stand for? We stand for secure sustainable jobs and health care for all, real retirement security, not dismantling the retirement security we have, and especially for unionists, bargaining and organizing rights. We're at the bottom of any democracy on bargaining and organizing rights in this country. And taking that message to our members, there's 14 million members represented by the 700 groups that Margareta mentioned, but also to other natural allies that aren't in blue-green, and building that kind of grassroots movement. Talking about California, at the end of March, there'll be a major action in LA around the economic justice issues. I think, you know, our job really is to create that kind of grassroots, and yes, in the streets, actions around the country to show that the only party is not the Tea Party, that there's a working class party with our allies that is prepared to fight back against the worst economic inequality in years and the worst abuse of corporate power really ever. And I think that we can build that movement. I think the commitment, the spirit you see in this room, right, folks, is evidence that we're ready to fight back and take the country back.
And that's what we're all about, building a movement. So if you think about a movement, the civil rights movement, the gay rights movement, the labor movement, you have, in each case, I think, a great cause, maybe voting rights, whatever it was, a great leader, Martin Luther King, a great organization, you had the SCLC. What are the components here necessary to really leave here building a national blue, green, good jobs, green jobs movement? What do the people here have to do? Where do we start? Mary Kay, you want to kick off?
Well, I think
what are the elements, in other words?
Yeah, one element is in the room, which is the number of organizations that have come together with this shared vision. And then this core agenda that Larry and Francis have talked about, which is what are we fighting for? And then a confidence like the Prop 23 victory gives us, or stopping the coal plant from being built in Purdue that Sierra Club just made happen. And that, you know, there's some wonderful victories that we have to hold up, I think, to convince ourselves, again, that this movement building is possible. And then I do think that we have to make a decision as institutions that we're going to go beyond coordination and make a decision to do what Larry said in terms of we can turn this around in 2 years, but we have to get on a coordinated strategy to make it happen. I think those ingredients need to exist. And this issue of leadership, I think we need to see a whole range of leaders being able to do this movement building, because it needs to come from the cities and states up and really do it in the way that we have been when you look at Prop 23 and victories in states all across the country.
Do you need, I guess is a question, one leader? I mean, part of the problem with the Tea Party is nobody knows who the leader is. Sarah Palin thinks she is. Michelle Bachmann, God forbid, thinks she is. And I'm just glad to see Terrell Clark here today, who ran against Michelle Bachmann and should be in the United States Congress. Can you do it with 50 different leaders, 50 different states? Larry?
You know, I think what we would say, the three of us and most folks here, you know, the movement building, Mary Kay just said it, it's grassroots. And yeah, I mean, at other points in history, you know, you'll see one or more. I think it's usually more than one, you know, person out in front of these organizations. I think the real challenge is to us and folks in this room, you know, going back with a blue-green agenda, with an economic justice agenda, with a workers' rights agenda, and boiling it down to, you know, our view in CWA is those 4 issues. But, you know, whatever it is, boil it down to something that fits on a card like the ones you're holding. And so we know this is what we're fighting for. And here's the action plan. It isn't just theory. You know, here's the action plan. And the action plan is not just take on the Congress, but to take on the corporations and the kind of corporate power. And you talked about the Koch brothers, but there's dozens of other examples, so that they realize they can't hide behind the Chamber of Commerce. They can't hide behind their $1,000 an hour lawyers. Yeah, we know who they are. We know where they are. And we're going to bring the fight right to their door. And when workers rise up, the rest of us will be there. We're going to go back to basics. We'll be in the streets. We'll be in their face. And together we can beat them.
I'm ready to sign up. I think we found our leader. Francis, we talk about one leader. Does there have to be one cause? I mean, is it like that everybody rallies around?
No, I think Mary Kay said it exactly right. We have a common vision for what America can be. We all come at it with maybe from a slightly different interest, but we have the same view, and we have to come together with that overall vision and then unleash our troops. And our troops need to be connected. They have to see that they have common ground. The environmental community sees that it has common ground with the labor movement, that we're trying to achieve the same goals. There's nobody in America who doesn't expect to have clean air and clean water. No one wants to return to the 19th century or the mid-20th century when there was soot, smog, people with respiratory problems suffering on a day-to-day basis. That's what people want to take us back to. That's where the new Republicans that have taken over the Congress want to take us to. They want to undo the safeguards that the American public have come to expect and think it is a right that they have earned in this country. We have to band together and make sure that those rights are real, that we, in our communities, where those are being threatened, we come together, we push back, and we bring that message directly to Congress. That's something I know we can do, because look at the power in this room. We need to take it down into the grassroots.
I want to ask you kind of a related question and come back to the movement. Does that mean, for the sake of jobs and clean energy, that environmentalists now have to support nuclear power plants?
I think we are so far from that. You know, there's a great article in the New York Times just a week ago which showed of all the nuclear power plants that had been proposed over the last several years, they're all on the sideline because the economics still don't work. Energy efficiency works. Renewables work. We have to get those jobs that can be created right now. And nuclear has not for 30 years, and it's not evident that it's going to. Just doesn't work from a financial standpoint. So let's go after those things that do work, that we can do right now, that people can work on.
All right, I just want to get my directions. That's all from, that's why I raised that question. All right, so we're getting some signals here. They're just about out of time. Let me ask each of you to sum up, what are the next steps you think for the people in this room after this great conference here, all the energy in this room, what are the next steps that you would recommend that this group undertake collectively to really seriously build the movement that we all know is necessary and that can deliver the change that we all want to see for this country? Who wants to start? Nobody wants to start. All right, Mary Kay.
Well, I think that there's some incredible work going on in this room that we just need to deepen. That's one, like the training that our environmental service workers and property service workers are doing in their buildings that link how they understand about a green economy with their jobs. And then the second thing is I feel like what Francis just said, that we have the right to expect an America where we are all prospering, and that we can insist on that together and use our organizational energy to reach for it, insist on it, demand it, is part of what we need, I think, to leave recommitting ourselves to do, and then figuring out in cities and states what it is that we can do together to shine a light on how this unfairness in our economy needs to get corrected. It isn't that we are not producing wealth, it's just not being shared. And we have to shine a light on that injustice by hitting the streets, protesting, picking targets, and then insisting on a return to the shared vision that the Blue-Green Alliance has created.
And Francis, does that mean then, like creating, maybe they already exist, I don't know, a chapter in every big city, in every state, and organizing at that level, and then, you know... So
it absolutely does. We have to create much stronger political power than we've been able to demonstrate. That means in the ground, in congressional districts. We have to demonstrate that power. We also have to tell the story of the future. There are clean energy jobs being created all across this country. We have to tell those stories so that it is real to people. They understand there is a positive future there, and it's being created now. So it's both the power and the story, and it starts at the grassroots and spreads across America, and it requires us all to come together with common messaging, because we're much more powerful if we're together than if we're all separated into our various constituencies. So coming together is an absolutely central part of it.
Next step, Larry.
Next step. So we're going to see Blue-Green Alliance work more regionally. Each of us here need to organize within our states, because that is the way, as we talked about, that we can build political power, and then within communities within the states. So it's local organizing models that we each have to leave from here with, and build a plan when we go back home. And then overall, the big tent is economic justice. And I think there's a growing coalition, not only of blue-green, but broader civil rights, other groups coming from other perspectives that realize that, first of all, blue-green is part of economic justice. The sustainability of the economy is part of economic justice, but that it also involves workers' rights. It involves issues like health care and retirement, and that big tent, immigrant rights, that big tent of economic justice is the tent that we're all in. And I think that movement is growing, and that movement can be built both in states and locally, and then come back to the national agenda again, as Mary Kay said, in 2 years. But we also come back with the theme of bringing democracy back in this country. As you said, whether it's Citizens United and the corporate spending, or whether it's the worst Senate rules in the history of the country, we need to bring democracy back so that when we fire people up and when we take action across the country, they know that we can bring about the change that we voted for in 2008. Not just talking about it, but see it enacted on the federal level as well.
Well, I've got to say, you couldn't have three better spokespeople for this cause than Francis Beinecke, Mary Kay Henry, and Larry Cohen. Thank you so much, panelists. And let me just say, as I thank the panel, I got to tell you, I think this is so exciting. I think a revolution is what we're witnessing here. It's a strong revolution already. It's only going to get stronger. We're on the right side of history, so I hope we all go out of this room today determined more than ever and committed more than ever to good jobs and green jobs and making them happen. Go for it.